What's up, everybody? You're now listening to Rock Shot Jayhawk with me, Jayhawk, a podcast brought to you by the Field of 68 Media Network. Make sure you rate 5 stars, review, and hit the subscribe button on iTunes or anywhere else you get your podcast from. Today's guest was a member of the 2001 Kansas Final Four team. He's worked under 2 Hall of Fame coaches and is absolutely killing it as a head coach at Washburn University. Welcome to the podcast, the 2018 KBCA Coach of the Year, and a man that's known in the Hawkins house as KB Brooks and Briggs' dad, Brett Ballard. Welcome to the podcast.
I need you to introduce me like that everywhere I go, Jayhawk. I appreciate that, man. I love the energy. I've been following what you guys are doing with this. Really cool idea, really cool format. Love that you're the one doing that, representing the Jayhawk family. And so I'm happy for you, proud of you, and it's an honor. I'm happy to be on here, man. It's great.
Well, good, man. Like I mentioned before, man. Hey, you're a hot commodity right now, man. So I definitely want to make sure we keep things rolling, man, because I know your time is very, very precious. So let's hop right. We're gonna hop right into the Jayhawks. So the last full of games have kind of been up and down for the Jayhawks. What are your thoughts on this year's team and as far as a consistency standpoint?
Yeah, I've got a chance to see sometimes with my schedule. I don't see every game, but I've seen most of their games this year, Hawk, and I'm pretty high on them. I'm pretty high on them. I think they've got a good team. I think they played, a tremendous schedule. I don't know what their strength of schedule is. I didn't look that up before we talked, but I imagine it's got to be, top 10, top 15 in the country. So with the schedule they played, I think the results, as KU fans, we get so spoiled and our expectations every year are elite. They're elite, and you're expecting to get that 1 seed and win the Big 12. And that could still be the case with this team. I think right now this is a very good team. I don't know that they're elite yet. Can they get there? I really think, and this is my faith in Coach Self more than anything, but I think he'll navigate it. I think they're going to keep getting better. And I think this team's best days are ahead of them. I thought, I know we'll get into more. I watched the Oklahoma State game the other night. Didn't play great, but a lot of that was when you're Kansas, you get everybody's best shot.
Yeah.
Like I've watched Oklahoma State play. And no offense to Oklahoma State, I like their coaching staff. They're doing a good job. But I saw them in some games before they played Kansas. They didn't look anything like that. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, KU comes to town, and it's the biggest game of the year, one of the biggest games of the year for them. And so, that's the reality at KU. You're going to get everybody's best shot. That coupled with we don't have 16-3 in Allen Fieldhouse this year.
Yeah.
We don't have that advantage this year. It's going to be, it's always challenging. It's going to be a little more challenging from that aspect. But Jeff, I like this team, man. I think they're going to keep getting better.
Yeah, and I agree. And you kind of jump forward a little bit to my next question, which talks about the home court advantage with 16,000. 3. You just mentioned it's challenging. Not having that. So do you think there is a legit home court advantage not having the 16,003?
Yeah, you were more athletic than I was, Jeff, but I could jump pretty high in those pregame warm-ups in the field house, man. My vertical was probably at least 2 or 3 inches higher, during warm-ups in the field house, and that's real. Like that energy that crowd gives you, not just in warm-ups, but to give you confidence during runs in a game, to kind of give you some encouragement, maybe when the game's not going so well. I mean, that fan support that we have at Kansas is second to none. So, the reality is you're not going to have that as much this year. And, Coach, nobody's going to make excuses about that, but it will make it, I think, it easier for teams to come into the field house to potentially get wins. That is what it is. I think that you got to understand that going into it. Everybody's in the same boat, pretty much. Everybody's kind of got the same fan restrictions that we've got. I know the guys won't make a excuse about that, but it is the reality that I think KU fans have to understand this year that that home court advantage isn't quite what it normally is.
Yeah, and because of that, do you feel? And this is probably something that you're dealing with your current team at Washburn, because you don't have the same type of crowd, whether you're on away or home game. You have to kind of like, how do you find that energy? Is it within the team? The bench has to have energy. Like, even as a coach, what are you preaching, and what do you think Coach Self is preaching? Because you've been under Coach Self in these type of situations.
Yeah. This is a year, Hawk, when you hope that you've got naturally competitive guys that don't necessarily rely on outside influences to get themselves going. I mean, we played with some competitive guys. Aaron Miles was as competitive, Kirk Heinrich was competitive, Nick Collins was competitive, Drew Gooden was competitive. We played with some guys that it didn't matter to those guys. They were competitive every day. And I'm not saying that that's not the case with this Jayhawk team. I don't know them probably as well as you do, and certainly Coach does. But this is a year, Hawk, when if you don't have that natural fire inside of you, you're not going to get it as much from those outside influences. So that's part of it. We've told our teams, Jeff, that we feel like our bench can create a lot of the energy in the gym. You kind of saw it in the NBA bubble this summer. I thought that was pretty cool because you could hear so much of what was going on. The benches have become more animated than they normally would because there's no other crowd to feed off of. And I think whether you're at home, and we talk to our guys, our bench can create a home environment on the road just by being energetic. Yeah. So we try to emphasize that with our team here at Washburn. I know, KU guys that they've always support each other, and it looks like the bench is into the games. But I think that can help. At the end of the day, though, man, like the players got to go compete. And again, I think for the most part, those guys have. The Texas game was obviously ugly, but other than that, man, these guys, and I know that they didn't play great at Oklahoma State, but I feel like this is a pretty tight and competitive group that, again, I think over the course of the season, the grind of the season, they'll stick together and they're going to keep getting better.
Yep, and I think that's one of Coach Self's strengths is making sure, late down that road, whether it's Big 12 and, running into that stretch in the NCAA. That's when his guys, really start coming together, and they'll work it out. You can never doubt a Coach Self team, especially even if they're having some small road bumps, early in Big 12 play. He's always going to find a way to work those out.
No question. It's been amazing, Hawk, the run that we were part of a little bit, but then with Coach being there, I mean, it's almost hard to fathom. And as KU fans, you come to expect it. But every year, Coach puts his teams in positions to be successful. And you've been through it as you get in that grind of February, man. You've been going since August every day. And he gets his teams through a lot of different psychological battles that he puts them through. He builds them up at the right time. He breaks them down at the right time. Individual players, the way he manipulates psychologically individual players, he knows the right buttons to push, the right buttons to twist to get his teams playing at a high level consistently. And, again, we're spoiled, and KU fans sometimes crack me up. We lose a game and everybody knows what Coach should be doing. I'm like, he's been doing it here for a long time. He'll figure it out. And again, that's why I think with this team, David McCormack obviously is a guy that's a focal point for a lot of people and the fans, but he's starting to show some signs of getting more comfortable. And I think the other guy, Hawk, that's going to take another step that hasn't played he's played fine, but maybe not to the expectation level that probably he would even expect would be Marcus Garrett. I think Marcus has had a really good year, and I love Marcus. I respect Marcus so much because he was kind of like you, Hawk. He wasn't really highly recruited necessarily, wasn't a McDonald's guy, but from the day he's been on campus, he's found a way to impact the team.
Yeah.
All of a sudden this year, senior year, more expectations put onto him. Some guys, handle that a certain way, but I think Marcus will get more comfortable in his role. And I know we're a little ways into the year now, but there's still a lot of games left to be played. And I got a feeling Marcus is going to, have a bigger impact on games he even has so far. He's been fine and he's been good. I'm not saying he hasn't been good, but I think he's a guy that could step up into a bigger role.
What do you think he needs to do offensively from aggressive? Do you think he needs to stay aggressive offensively, take more shots, get more paint touches? I mean, what do you think offensively, Marcus can do to kind of help that team out from an offensive? Because we know he's going to bring it on the defensive end.
Yeah.
But what do you think offensively he can do to kind of help the Jayhawks?
I got their stats here, Hawk, and his stats aren't bad. I would say this, all of a sudden without Devon there, now he's the point guard this year. I know you guys have discussed that, and being a point guard is such a unique balance between everybody's enamored right now with the point guards that score. You look at the NBA, there's a lot of these point guards now that really want to score it. When we played, point guards were more, again, I'll go back to Aaron Miles, was more, hey, you distribute, you get guys shots. And to me, with Marcus, I think he's a mix between old school and new school. To me, I think he's got to be a guy setting guys up. He's got to set Oach up. He's got to set Christian up for shots, He's got to get guys, got to get David the ball in the right spots. I think they need that. I think, ultimately that's the role that some point guards need to play. And I think with this team, he's got to pick and choose the spots that, all right, Christian Brown's got the hot hand. How, point guards that really think the game. All right, like 8 Miles would know, all right, Kirk hit a couple threes. Yeah. All right, I'm going to set Kirk up for another 3. And he would do it, like he would get him another good shot. And that's what elite point guards can do. And I think Marcus hopefully can start feeling that a little bit. Like if Oach has got it going, let's get Oach a look. But with this team, I get it without the scoring power in some areas that maybe they've had. He does got to be aggressive. I just think he needs to stay in attack mode, and when he has opportunities to go score it, but also balance that with getting the guys that need shots, the shots. I think that it's kind of that balance that this team needs.
Yeah, and you made a great point with him staying in attack mode. And I think if he stays in attack mode, and he did this all last year. When he stayed in attack mode, he was able to kick out to the open guy for an open shot if he was available, or he found a way to get all the way to the rim, but he always kept the defense guessing. And even when they tried to play off of him at times, he was, step back and take that 3. So I think, like you said, man, you said it right. If he can stay in attack mode, I think it's just going to continue to help that team out. So David McCormack, you mentioned him a little bit, had one heck of a week last week. Seems like he's turned the corner. I think he had 24, 17, and 20. Seems like, and he's starting to, get double digits rebounds. What do you think he needs to continue to do to keep building off of that momentum?
Yeah, I think David's played fine. I know he had some rough games early, and for whatever reason that the fans have been on a little bit. I think we've just been so spoiled with such elite big guys. That you just expect every year we're going to have an All-American type big down there. And you look at David's numbers compared to any other big in the Big 12, you'd stack him right up there with anybody. But I know you guys have discussed this, but the thing with the KU bigs that coach has always done a great job of is he's always got them easy baskets. When we were there, when I was on staff, whether it was Jeff Withy or Landon Lucas or Udoka, they'd always do a good job of working angles and getting easy baskets every game. Thomas Robinson got drafted, was a lottery pick that really didn't have a ton of game other than he could walk his guy up and dunk it. And he was athletic, and he did a lot of things, but a big part of it was he just knew how to create angles. Yep. And David reminds me a little bit of Wayne Simeon. Wayne, if you remember when we were there, Wayne, coach was on Wayne. Wayne, get an angle. And Wayne would try to get an angle for about half a second, and then he'd be like, just throw me the ball on the block and let me go to work. And coach used to get frustrated. And I remember going and it would be in meetings and coach got it. But so Danny was like, and even I was like, hey, Wayne just needs the ball. Like if we get Wayne the ball within teeth of the basket, he's going to score it. He doesn't, his game isn't really the angle game.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying David's Wayne by any stretch of the imagination, because Wayne was
Yep.
All-American, but David just seems more comfortable posting with that guy on his back.
Yeah.
Um, I would just say this about David. He's got to stay active. He's got to stay aggressive. He's got to know when to shoot it and when to trust that
Yeah.
we can get the better shot. That'd be my only, play with some pace. And just because you touch it doesn't necessarily mean you have to shoot it, because you got a lot of weapons out there. And sometimes the best offense is throwing it in, drawing help. And now we're playing off that kick out, which may lead to a three, or, now we can break the defense down. But listen, people are critical sometimes. Dave is a great kid. He plays with great energy, represents the program the right way. There's a lot of teams around the country that would love to have a David McCormack, and he's going to keep getting comfortable too.
Yeah, for sure. And I know you mentioned Jalen Wilson a little bit. He's kind of, been a little bit up and down. That's, not just individual as a player. That's kind of been with the team as well too. But Jalen's been in a little bit of funk the last couple of games. What do you think, he needs to do as well with him kind of really getting into his first full season? It's just kind of like last year would be maybe a freshman, kind of the freshman woes. Is he kind of getting some of that now? And kind of what does he, if he is, what does he need to do kind of to get out of that funk?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny in Hawk, because again, I know keep going back to when we played, and we're getting old, but when we played, freshmen weren't even hardly expected to do anything.
Yeah.
Like if you played as a freshman, it was like, man, if you played at all, you're like, you were the man, let alone go in and average. I got the stats right here. Jalen's averaging, 14 points a game as a freshman. I mean, he didn't play last year. He's a freshman. He played, 12 college games.
Yeah.
I love Jalen because, before the season, nobody's talking about Jalen. He got hurt last year. Nobody knew about him. He's won us a couple of games by himself.
Yeah.
I love how he attacks. I love how he competes on defensive end. He maybe hadn't played as well the last couple of games, but again, he's a freshman. And I think he's a guy. I think he is a key, because I think he gives us a transition piece to Hawk. I love when he gets that ball and he can get downhill and transition like Dot did last year.
Yeah.
We missed that a little bit. Marcus can do that some, but we need him. He's also a guy, Och and Christian are both great shooters, not necessarily elusive off the bounce. And with Marcus, Marcus can beat people off the bounce, but you got to have a secondary guy that can break people down. You can run whatever offense you want, but at the end of the day, at some point, a lot of times, Hawk, you got to break somebody down off the dribble. And I love what Jalen can do. So, I mean, to me, Jalen's a pro. Like, I don't know if he's a pro yet, but like with his size, the way he shoots it, and his mentality and his toughness, he's like a prototypical, to me, NBA guy down the road. Not yet necessarily, but man, he's got good size, can shoot it, and can defend. I love what Jalen's doing, and I look for him to bounce back here pretty quick.
Yeah, he kind of checks to me. I mean, you say that about the pro potential as well too, but to me, he kind of checks all the boxes. He plays defense. You can check that box. He can shoot it. He can drive it. Good court vision. I mean, he has a lot of boxes that he checks. So it's going to be fun to see him grow in a Jayhawk uniform.
Yeah.
All right. So what are your thoughts? I want to get your thoughts on this, Coach. Hey, what are your thoughts on KU playing 5 guards?
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of talk about that, and Coach has gone to that some, which I think with this roster he's needed to, and basketball in general has kind of gone that way. We play 5 guards at times here at Washburn, and I like it. I think that offensively it gives you a lot of firepower out there. Even when you go 5 out, that you got to decide how do you really want to play, because playing 5 out sounds great, but then there's teams that have played 5 out around the country, but you still have to figure out how are we really going to score out of that. You can run motion, like there's some 5 out teams, like Texas Tech's kind of a 5 out team, but they run motion. Davidson has kind of been a 5 out team that runs motion. I don't know that Coach really wants to be a motion team. Are you going to run sets out of it? Are you going to run dribble? Because even with five, you got to have a certain spacing. You got to kind of know, all right, how are we really going to score out of this? And that's another reason, Hawk, where they've kind of gone to this the last, month or so, month and a half. I think they're going to continue to get better at figuring out, okay, what actions can we run out of this to get spacing and looks. But I do think they'll continue to go to it. I think it can be dangerous. There's some big and athletic teams in the Big 12 that make it challenging. Baylor and Texas are both pretty big, and especially Texas is so athletic that sometimes that's challenging. But I think it's easier to play small than it is big. I think it's easier to scrap on the defensive end and play small than it is big. So I'm sure Coach will continue to go to it, and I like what I've seen when they've gone there. I just think they're going to have to figure out offensively how we're going to score, and then obviously on the defensive end, you got to rebound out of that. You got to have guys scrap and compete on the glass when you're smaller.
And and you're probably in a situation like that, because you said even with your team, you got to make sure you're probably sending all five guards on the defensive end to rebound.
Yeah, you got to scrap, you got to compete on the defensive end, and then also you got to figure out, like, here last year with KU Hawk, they basically guarded one way. All right, they had Doak in there. They would ice ball screens. Yep. They would switch all 1 through 4 actions, and so every day they got great at that. When you go 5 out, now you've got to tweak how you guard a little bit, right? So now how we guard ball screens in 5 out, how we guard actions in 5 out. What if they post our smaller guards? So that's practice time on the defensive end that you've got to spend on that stuff. And that takes a little time to really get, when you guard one way and you're elite at it, you don't have to spend as much. Now you can spend more practice time on shooting, dummy offense, whatever it may be, skill development. You're taking practice time away offensively to figure out what you're going to run, and defensively when you run, it's basically not a completely different system, but a lot of different, tweaks to it. And that can affect practice time, which is another reason why I think over time, this team kind of tightens those things up. They're going to keep getting better.
The more reps they get, you're right. Hey, so let's kind of jump into your playing days. All right, so you played with Drew Gooden, Nick Collison. Could you tell in their early days that they were capable of having such long NBA careers?
Yes and no. When I got there, Hawk, it was they were coming off their freshman. So Kirk, Nick, and Drew were coming off their freshman year. I got there; they were sophomores, and they had solid. All of them had solid freshman years, but not necessarily anything that would say, "Man, these guys are going to be lottery picks and play in the NBA for 10 plus years." And when I first got there, first of all, I was a walk-on, so I was scared to death. I thought everybody was elite, and I was getting torched every day by everybody. So I thought everybody was good. I thought everybody was going to the league when I first got there. But, it was one of those things where over the course of that sophomore year, you could start to see, some flashes of it. And then your freshman year, my senior year, which was 2001, 2002, Drew was elite. I mean, he was player of the year in college basketball. And then Kirk and Nick were just consistently doing some things where it's like, okay, these guys can be pros. And to me, you look back and it was just kind of the culture we're in, Hawk. But you were around it every day after practice. We had 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys staying in the gym every day working on your game. We would get together and play one-on-one and shoot and work on your game. That was and I think I just thought that was what happened, right? I just like, okay, this is what happens everywhere. But now being in it long enough, now you're a coach. When you have guys that are that committed, that get to practice early every day, and then every day that you can, they stayed after practice. And, those 3 guys in particular would stay after practice and work on their game, work on their skill set. That now looking back, probably at the time didn't realize it, but now looking back, that's one of the things that separated them, right? Like their preparation. And, one of the reasons they were pros for so long.
All right, look, hey, I got a question for you. All right, now, hey, we talk about the team when you were a senior, I was a freshman, that 2001, 2002 team. Hey, who do you think were the 2 strongest guys on that team?
Two strongest
If
guys.
you don't give me the right answer on this, Brad, I'm gonna cut you off too.
The strongest, like you talking about, like what kind of strength are we talking about?
You could go pound for pound strongest. Like, who are the two strongest guys on that team?
Oh man.
Because like whoever it was probably putting in extra work in the work.
So you want me to say you? Are you wanting me to? Are you setting me up to say that you were one of the strongest guys as an incoming freshman?
Because I know it wasn't me, man. I know I was getting out early.
Mike Lee was pretty strong, but that because he had that football body, man. Mike Lee came.
All right, man. Look, so look, here we go. I told you I'm gonna cut you off on this one, man. Heck no. And I don't even know if you know this, but I tell this story. And I've been telling it for, man, the last 10, 15 years. So during that stretch, man, you and Kirk, I don't care what you say, you and Kirk were the strongest two on that team. You guys were always in the weight room. And I always tell people, weren't the biggest. Yeah, Mike Lee, man. And Mike Lee, no, man. Mike Lee had all the big muscles.
He looked the part, didn't he?
Yeah,
my guy,
he looked the part, man. But the strongest guys, we're not saying the physically biggest guys, the two strongest guys were you and Kirk. I mean, I tell that story all the time, man. Brad, you can try to deny it all you want.
I don't know about that. I appreciate that. I do.
No, Brad.
I will say this.
You and Kirk, man. I tell that story still to this day.
Kirk was an elite athlete. I will say this. So when I first got there, I got there in the summer. Jonas Duration was our strength coach, and I'd go in every day. And there's no question that the weight room helped me. Like I needed to get quicker and more athletic. And still to this day, I talk to our players. You can really get better in there. But I got a funny story that kind of relates to that. So we had conditioning. It was probably your freshman year. So we went to the football stadium, had conditioning. And so we were running on the turf, right? And so we had groups that were running, and we had to make certain times. And the assistant coaches had stopwatches that kept our time because there were so many guys running. Coach Holiday had my stopwatch. So we're running these sprints, and like each individual guy had a time he had to make based off of like their skill set, position, whatever. The big guys didn't have to make it as quick as the guards, whatever. So we're running, and like I'm pride myself in like being in great condition, whatever. Like I'm not the fastest guy, but I could, run and compete. So I run with my group. I finished like first or second my group, and Coach Holiday goes, "Oh no, Brett didn't make his time." And I'm like, "What?" Like I won my group. So I'm pissed. And I know it's because I love Coach Holiday, but he didn't know how to do the deal. So Coach Williams is there that day. He chews me. I have to run again. And I know in my mind, like I didn't mess up. So then fast forward, we go from that. We got to start at the bottom of the Campanile Hill. They put us in groups of 3, and you had to run from the bottom of the Campanile Hill to the cone at the very top. If you won your group, you were done. So your groups of 3, the guy that won it was done. The next 2 guys had a race, come back down and race. Whoever won that was done. And then the third guy had to run 3 times. So I'm pissed. I get put in a group with Kirk and Jeff Oshie. So I'm mad. And this is right after. So I'm like, I'm going to win this so I can be done for the day. So we take off running, and it's me and Kirk. Like I'm going full speed. It's me and Kirk. I glance back, and Jeff is chilling. Jeff Oshie's back there. He's like 20 yards behind from the beginning. All right, whatever. So I'm going. We get like 15 yards from the cone. I'm going to beat him. Kirk kicks it into second gear, goes cruising past me, beats me, without even like sweating. And so I'm dead. So we get up, and Jeff comes rolling up there like 10 seconds later, and he goes, "You didn't really think you're going to beat Kirk, did you?" And I was like, "Oh my!" So then we go back down to the bottom. He's fresh as a daisy. Jeff's fresh as a daisy because he didn't try hard on the first rep. He smokes me. Yeah, he smokes me on the second one. I got to run all 3 of those. It was a tough day for me, Hawk.
Please tell me you've talked to this about with Coach Holiday, man.
So he comes up to me a couple of days later, and I love Coach Holiday. He was great for me. Yeah. Because I think I might have messed up this. I said, "No kidding. I know you messed up the stopwatch. Could you have said something when we were there? Like it does me no good for you to tell me this now." So yeah, that was
Oh,
that was a
is
tough day for
hilarious.
me in conditioning.
That is hilarious. Well, I'm pretty sure it just made you only stronger because it was tough trying to beat you in any mile run, conditioning, 30, doing 12, 33s. I don't even
I had
think he
that
ever put
advantage
the
on you,
hands on
Hawk.
you. Did you get tired, man?
No, that was as and you know it as you're an upperclassman and you did it when those younger guys come in. That's your advantage, that mental toughness.
Yeah,
A little bit of
yeah,
it's physical, but more than anything, it's between your ears. Like when
yeah.
you're a freshman, you think you're tired all the time. When you're a senior, like you're not really tired. So with you and A Miles, man, that was my advantage. When you guys came in, I had played some as a junior.
Yep.
I got in a scholarship, played in the NCAA tournament, played some pretty solid minutes. And so in my
Yeah.
mind, I'm like, man, going to my senior year, I'm gonna play. I can remember your guys' class came in, you, Wayne, Aaron, Mike Lee, and Keith Langford. And the first time we played pickup with you guys in June, I was like, ooh, these guys are good. And for about 2 days, I was sulking because I was like, man, I don't think I'm gonna play with these guys. But then, like, admittedly flipped, like, man, we're gonna be good. Like, we're gonna be with the
Yeah.
guys we got coming back, and with A Miles and Keith and you. And I was like, man, we got a chance to be special. So I had to compete, but I had a little bit of advantage early that I was in better shape. But I'm glad I didn't have to go against you when you were a junior senior.
Whatever,
That would have
man.
been ugly.
Whatever, man. Stop acting like you didn't have no locks on the defensive end. You still had breakdowns where you could get into the lane, create plays.
We could
Stop
hand check.
it, coach. Stop it, coach.
We could hand check. I utilize that hand check rule, but I'd struggle in today's game.
Hey, it's funny, man, because I tell people, I'm like, man, I don't know if I could survive in today's game. I'd be fouled out in the first half, man.
Well, you were fast. You'd be okay, Hawk. But honestly, for me, like, we could get that arm bar on them, or I could get you could get your hand on their hip enough, like initially, to get them where you and then show your hands. You do that now, it's automatic foul. So I would probably not be. Not that I was ever a great defender, but it's funny. Coach Williams came up to me after one of the practices my junior year. I was playing a little bit, and he came up to me, Hawk, and he goes, Brett, let me talk to you real quick. He goes, what do you think you provide to this team? Like, what benefit you provide? I said, well, my defense. And he kind of looked at me like I was crazy. And he goes, well, you're okay defensively, but he goes, you can shoot it. And so I tell that story. Like, I really thought I was a great defender, but I think coach was like, hey, when you're open, shoot the ball. But the hand check rules, it's a little bit different game, man.
It's a game changer. Hey, and talk about, your senior year, that team went obviously my freshman year, but that team went 16-0 in conference. Where do you think that year was like the hardest place to play on the road? Or do you feel like, again, every place on the road was hard because we get everybody's best shot?
Yeah. I mean, we were everybody's biggest game. I mean, that's Kansas. So there was a lot of them. Iowa State was really good then, Hawk. They had some good teams with Coach Stacey, and that place was a tough place to play. Obviously, it's always tough to play at K-State because they get so hyped up for that game. Missouri.
Hey, at the K-State, sorry to cut you off, Coach. At the K-State game, man, were you getting pennies or anything, any objects thrown at you?
Yeah,
I'm asking players.
Yeah, coin. Yeah, I don't know that I got hit by anything, but every once in a while you'd have some stuff coming out of the stands a little bit.
All right, sorry, Coach, man.
No,
all right,
Mizzou was good. OU, the environment at OU wasn't necessarily elite, but they obviously went to the Final Four that year. The Big 12 was good that year. OU and us both went to the Final Four. I think Missouri made the Sweet 16 or Elite 8, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. I mean, the league was top heavy. And so, fun team to play on and some fun experiences for sure on the road.
Yeah. So let's kind of move, kind of get more to in your coaching day. So after your senior year, you stayed on as student assistant. Did you always know you wanted to jump into coaching right after graduation?
Yeah. So my father was a high school coach, Hawk, and when I was in junior college, I kind of made a decision that I wanted to teach and coach. And that was a big part of why I went to KU because, I knew as a walk-on, I probably wasn't going to play that much, but I knew I could learn from Coach Williams and would probably help me be a better coach down the line. So that was really why I went there, or a big part of the reason why I went there. And then, when I played and even when I got done, my plan really, Hawk, was to be a high school coach and teacher. I was looking forward to that. I got my degree in teaching
Yeah.
and I was going to do that. The timing for me was pretty fortunate. Coach Williams left the year after my senior year, and then Coach Self came in. I went in and met with Coach Self the first time, and he was funny. It was a couple weeks after he got the job, so I know he had a million things going on, but he didn't really have a spot for me other than just said, "Hey, man, if you want to come in and volunteer your time, I'm not going to tell you not to be here." That's kind of what I did that first year, helped run the camps, and then kind of got a video spot, and from there was able to be a full time staff member.
Yeah. So I mean, just your whole coaching tree, man, is pretty unique, man. You've had the chance to obviously coach under two Hall of Fame coaches and one Hall of Fame player as well, too. Like, who do you think your coaching style now is most like? Like Coach Williams, Coach Self, Coach Manning, a little bit of mixture, a little bit of
Yeah.
Brett Ballard. I mean, like, how do you define your coaching style, kind of?
Yeah, I think even Hawk, for me, going back to some of the coaches I had as a youth influenced me. My high school coach has had a Phil Anderson has had a big time impact on me, and then certainly playing for Coach Williams. There's a lot of things that he got from Dean Smith, but then just the
Yeah.
Carolina way that it became the Kansas way of how your expectations for players, how he treated walk-ons,
Yeah.
how he treated,
Yeah.
how he handled everything, the way he ran practices, the way he coached. Certainly, Coach Williams has been a big influence. I would say my coaching style probably imitates Coach Self more than anybody. I was around him for 7 years, and I was, behind the scenes every day in the office, in the locker room, in practices, in games. So I would say I probably try to emulate Coach Self more than anybody else.
Yeah.
And then Coach Manning, I was fortunate to be under Danny Manning, who was a very very good coach, and learned a lot from Danny, not only about coaching, but Danny's so good with how he helps prepare players for life and how important that was for Coach Manning. So it's a combination of guys, Hawk. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, though, the longer I coach, and you do it, you still got to be who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't be. And I think when I first got to Baker, I wanted to be Bill Self so bad. And, you kind of learn after a year or so, it's like, okay, I can take parts from all these guys, but at the end of the day, I got to be, Brett Ballard. And and I certainly don't have it all figured out, but I think just kind of a combination of those, but ultimately coming back to really what I believe in.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you coached at Wake Forest, you obviously got to play against Coach Williams on a regular basis. Did that feel weird playing against a guy that recruited you?
It was weird. I think it was more challenging for me in '08 when we played them
Yeah.
in the Final
Yeah.
Four.
Yeah.
And I wanted to win. I'm a Kansas guy, but Coach Williams gave me a chance. I would not be doing what I'm doing right now if he didn't give me a chance to walk on at Kansas. And the way he treated me and some of the greatest memories of my life are from him. And so when we played them, it was kind of surreal. And then that game was crazy how well we played.
Yeah,
And then
it
they
was.
came back and we still, kind of pulled away with it. That was a unique experience. Again, I'm glad that Kansas won. I was a Kansas guy then. But when we used to play against him at Wake, yeah, it was a little bit different. And it was, hearing him coach, it kind of brings you,
Yeah.
it kind of snaps you back into like, oh, I'm in practice or in games. Like, coach is coach, man. He hadn't really changed that much since
Yeah.
we were with them. He's still saying the same things, preaching the same things. So you would hear those things and you would kind of like feel like for just a split second you were still playing for him a little bit.
That's awesome, man. So let's dive a little bit into your squad. You guys are 10-1, beat the #1 team in the nation on the road earlier this January. What do you like most about your team right now?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking about that, Hawk. We got a good group, man. I like our guys. Sometimes your record and yeah, of course you like your guys. You're playing well, but I really like our team and how they've handled everything with this COVID situation. It's been a
Yeah.
challenging year for everybody, and there's been a lot of distractions and a lot of days where I think you could come in and have an excuse not to compete at a high level or not to be
Yeah.
focused. And And these guys have just come in every day and really given us what they've gotten, what they have in their tank. And we've had a lot of really good days of preparation. Um, we've got a good mix of experience with youth, and
Yeah.
our older guys have done a great job of setting the tone and being the example for our younger guys. I've got a really good point guard in Tyler Guyman. Tyler's from
Yeah.
Blue Valley, Kansas, played in Kansas City, was a good player, played for Run GNC, good AAU program there. And Tyler's been playing at an elite level this year, Hawk. He's two-time MIAA player of the week the last 2 weeks. And he's our leader. I mean, he's played at a high level, and he's our point guard. We talked about point guards earlier, and I think when you've got elite point guard play, whether it's Devontae Graham, Frank Mason, for me it's Tyler Guyman. When you got an elite point guard, it gives you a chance to win a lot of games, and so far we've been playing well.
Yeah. Hey, and speaking on the point guard, how important do you think when you have a experienced point guard, how important do you think it is for that point guard to have a good relationship with the coach, not only the head coach, but the rest of the coaching staff as well, too?
Yeah, I think your assistants, with all the players, I think that good staffs, the assistants, form real relationships, right? Like
Yeah.
it's such a fine line between they got to be their coach first. Players want you to be their friend, and especially as assistants, as a player, you want that friend at times, and assistants got to walk that fine line between if I'm on a guy every day, they got to do a good job of building them up behind the scenes,
Yeah.
but in a way that doesn't undercut what the head coach is trying to do and never justifies a negative pattern of behavior. So I've got great assistants here. I know Kansas, Coach Towns and Coach Roberts, those guys, they've got great assistants there. But I agree. Like, I think your assistants help build confidence, real confidence in players. And as far as the point guard goes, I always felt like, the point guard needs to be an extension of the head coach.
Yeah.
And, whether it's Sharon Collins or Frank, you've seen some elite point guards at Kansas. And coach, here's what I think. I don't think coaches always coach his best players hard.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing I've taken from coaches, I can coach my point guard, Tyler Guyman, hard. And if I can coach him hard, then the rest of the guys see, okay, not only is that the point guard, but the best player. The rest of the guys see that, okay, he can coach him hard, then I got to be able to take some criticism. And coach has done that. Coach Williams did that too, but I certainly learned that from Coach Self. Like, he coached you hard, Hawk. He did. And even when you're one of our better players, it wasn't like he just gave you days off. He challenged you every day to get better.
Every day. Yep. Every day to get better. And that's what you have to do. You know it, Coach. And I know you'll keep doing it, man. So, your team is a mixture between Kansas kids and kids from out of state. As you recruit, what are your thoughts on the potential and high quality of high school basketball in Kansas?
Yeah, we recruit Kansas City hard, Hawk. I mean, that's been our wheelhouse. It's 45 minutes, an hour down the road from us. And so we have recruited, that has been our hub. And I like the AAU programs in Kansas City. I think they do a great job. Victor Williams, Mocan, Run GMC, on down the line. Those guys do a great job with preparing players in the summertime. And then there's some really, really good high school basketball coaches in this area. I mean, in Kansas in general, but in Kansas City. And so for us, we, 60, 70, 75% of our roster has been Kansas City guys. And if you look at the guys that have played a lot of minutes for us, it's been a lot of Kansas City kids. So we worked hard to establish relationships with the AAU coaches and the high school coaches in Kansas City. We spend a lot of time over there at games and at tournaments. But I feel like we feel like the quality of players coming out of that area will allow us to be really good. And then we've got kids from Wichita and some other places in Kansas. I think that we have a pretty good foothold in trying to establish what the Washburn brand in this state. And then every once in a while, we're not afraid to go outside of the state and take some guys. It's just at the Division II level, Hawk, it's a little different. If I go to Texas and recruit, kid may not have heard of Washburn, right? But if I go to Kansas City, for the most part, okay, I know what Washburn is. I've heard of Washburn. I know some guys that have played at Washburn. So we can get in recruiting in that area a little bit more. And that's kind of what we try to do.
Well, you're doing a great job with it, Coach. And I don't know any coach or any player that any coach that wouldn't want to send their player to you, and any player that wouldn't want to be part of what you're definitely building there, man. Keep it up. So, hey, we'll end right here, man. We'll end with some quick fire questions, man, and then we'll get you on your way, man, so you can continue to focus on your season.
Sounds good.
Hey, what was your favorite place to eat in Lawrence when you were at school? Excuse me, when you were at school.
Oh, Don's Steakhouse. It's not there anymore.
Hey.
You remember old Don's on 23rd?
Yeah,
That was the spot.
Don's, man.
We used to have pregame down there, or we not necessarily pregame. We'd go there some, and yeah, I used to love Don's. Can't be Jefferson's down on Mass Street, but Don's was the spot.
Don's was a spot. I think that's where on my visit where we went to eat.
Yeah, that was like
strawberry daiquiris, man.
Yeah, that's non-alcoholic.
Yeah,
strawberry daiquiris. I know. Let's clarify that hot. But those strawberry daiquiris those hit different over there at Don's.
Oh yeah, they did, man. All right, so how would I can't say our 2001 Final Four team match up against the most recent KU Final Four squads, the 2008, the 2012, and the 2018?
We all have bias towards the teams we played for. That 2002 team could go, man. You think about Drew Gooden, lottery pick, Collison, lottery pick, Heinrich Lauderson pick, Aaron Miles, all-time leader in assists, Jeff Boschee, all-time leader in three-point shooting, Keith Langford, one of the top players ever played at Kansas, top 10 in scoring, and has had an elite pro career. Wayne Simeon, first-round draft pick. Jeff Carey, very, very good, solid big off the bench. That team was really good. Now KU's had elite teams, and I don't know, but that team could score as well as any Kansas team that's been around the last 30 years. I mean, we put up 100 in 5, 6, 7 Big 12 games. I mean, like it was nothing. And that that was just, we had so much firepower. You could score inside and out. So I'm biased. I think our team could compete with any of these teams, but I who knows? At the end of the day, there's been some good ones at KU.
Hey, well, it sounds like a great answer to me. I'm going to second that one. Hey, so if you could have played with one player after KU, after your days at KU, who would it have been?
That played after I played?
Yep.
Before, I would have picked Jock Vaughn. I love Jock, and
okay.
I follow this website on Twitter, and it's showing all these old college basketball highlights, and it's got a lot of KU, and Jock was just I love Jock, the way he played. But after I loved Sharon Collins when I got to coach him, because I just loved how competitive he was. Yeah. And I would have liked to compete. Like Kirk and I would go at each other every day in practice, and like a lot of times almost fight every day in practice, because we were kind of cut from the same cloth as just hating to lose. And Sharon reminded me of Kirk a lot of ways. Like he could be stubborn a little bit in a good way. And I would have loved to been a teammate with him and also compete against him in practice. That's
awesome. Sharon, I think Sharon's one of my top picks, man. Having him in the backcourt, man. Literally, you could just give him the ball and say, "Hey, go get a bucket."
No, he was tough.
They're on you, Sharon. I'm open in the corner, so he can take a lot of.
If you need me, I'll be over here chilling. Yeah, exactly. You need me, I'm over here. If you don't need me, I'm good. I'll get back on D. I'm good.
But if you don't need me, I know you'll score it, man. You're good. Hey, so last question, man. Who's a better shot from three? A 13-year-old Brett Ballard or a 13-year-old Caden Ballard?
No question, his old man. No question, his old man. I can't give him that much credit yet, but he's working on it, man. He's trying to catch up with your son, Mav, man. Mav's a good player, and it's been fun to watch them play with each other some, and they're probably going to play against each other, hopefully growing up here. But no, it's fun. You're in it, man. It's fun having your kids play the game that that we loved. And Hawk, you coached him some in the summer, and I appreciate that. He's been around some good coaches. Hopefully he keeps wanting to play and getting better. But it's cool watching your kids get to have these opportunities, man. I know we did when we were younger, but it's different now. Man, these kids get to play so many games and have so many opportunities. I would have loved to have been able to play this many games, but it's been fun, man. But I appreciate you asking that.
All right, but yeah, you have to make sure you relay the message to Caden, man. I don't know, man. I've seen both. I've seen both, man, and I've seen Caden go 4 for 4 for us, man. 4 for 4 for us. So I don't know, man. His dad was good, but I think we're gonna have to set up that matchup, man. Best out of 10.
All right. Well, we can make that happen. But I'm just telling you, he's not beating me yet. Maybe soon, but not yet, Hawk.
Oh, I believe it. I believe Brett still got it for sure. All right. Well, that's it for today, Jayhawk Nation. Thanks for listening in to Rock Chalk Jayhawk with me, Jayhawk, a podcast brought to you by the Field of 68 Media Network. Make sure you rate 5 stars, hit the review, and subscribe on iTunes or anywhere else you get your iTunes platform from. Brett, again, thanks again, man. Appreciate you. Looking forward to continue to watching you do big things at Washburn, man. Rock Chalk, go Ichabod's.
Thanks, Hawk. Best of luck to you too, man.
You betcha, man. Thanks.